Good morning and welcome to one of the final Sunday sideline reports here on the Sports Insanity Network, brought to you by the Dugout of Millage, your best place for getting autographed memorabilia and cards. I am Mark, the one and only Old Ops guy, Halpern. I am with, back in his house, back in his place, Danny. Boy, Reginald, our vice
Ooh,
president, is situated and back. Dan, good morning.
been a rough couple of weeks, I'll tell you that much. Um, you want to know what happened to me? It'll be on SIP. You listen to all of it there. But I'm just glad to be back. Glad to be back.
Glad to have Dan back. And the guy who couldn't come up with a nice name, he's just the Sports Insanity Network. He couldn't come up with a creative name, but he is known as the Pun Master. He's the one who keeps us all laughing. Mike, the Pun Master Rifkin, good morning.
Morning. Well, I could say I am the network. I carry you guys on my back.
Well, if it wasn't for Mike, we would not have article content. I
Well,
ride on his coattails. That's my job. I ride on Mike's coattails. But
uh,
so here we are, Championship Sunday. This is the saddest moment of my life because two of us expected our teams to be there. Me, as the Dallas Cowboys got their ass kicked by the friggin' Green Bay Packers,
Ooh, yeah.
and Mike with his Dolphins,
wait a
putting.
second. Take a step back. I never thought I'd be. I was hopeful I'd be here.
And then poor Dan, after the fourth play of the season, knew his chances were over. So,
Yeah.
but
It has to translate to wins next year, though, because
But
everyone
here
can.
we are, Championship Sunday, two games. We got the AFC game at 3 o'clock, and then we got the NFC game at 6:30. We're gonna kick this over to Mike Rifkin to get us started on our fun Sunday. Let us get rocking.
When you described the Jet season, I remember the Family Guy where Stewie's at New York Mets game.
That's
Here's the first pitch of the season,
bitch.
and the season's
It's
over.
over.
Yeah. So today we have Championship Sunday. Most people would say the roles should be reversed. The NFC should be first, and the AFC should be second, but they do rotate the games every year. But as Mark said, we'll start with the AFC game, and you couldn't ask for a better game. You have Patrick Mahomes, you get Lamar Jackson, you get Andy Reid, you get John Harbaugh. They're probably gonna do a picture-in-a-picture screen with Taylor Swift in a suite. But we got Chiefs, we've got the Ravens. The Chiefs beat the Bills last week in another great game between those two teams, and the Ravens. Well, they sent the Texans back to Houston. But we got two elite quarterbacks, two elite defenses, and two elite head coaches. Mark.
Well, we're starting out with Kansas City and Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. What a way to open up this weekend. Lamar Jackson, the MVP. There is, not unfortunately, there is no question about it. We'll get into a little bit more about MVP stuff later on. And then you got Andy Reid, who is who's ready to celebrate with his quadruple hamburger after the game. This is a game that is going to be a much differently played game due to the fact that the weather is going to play a factor. Now, Dan, you're down there in that region. As you said, it's cold, it's rainy. It's raining in Maryland right now. What
Mhm.
is this going to do to this game? Obviously, we saw what happened with KC Miami with the cold and the ice. Now we're dealing with constant rain on and off.
Well, it's warmer than it was in Kansas City and Buffalo. I'll tell you that much. Um, No, no one's gonna care. It's raining. It's Championship Sunday. They'll play their butts off. That's what they say until they start playing, and then they realize, well, the field is wet, ball is not getting enough grip, so I can't really throw it as much as I want to. They're probably gonna use the run game a lot more. Um, and that tells me advantage Ravens all the way, right then and there, just because of that. Uh, so it does change the game plan a little bit, but it's going to be a really big defensive minded game. Chiefs have good defense, Ravens have a good defense. Expect a lot of running and a lot of good defense out there.
Yeah,
Mike,
defense is going to reign supreme. This is not going to be your old school Chiefs kind of game. This is a new school team. They win with their defense. They proved that last week against the Bills. What I'm excited for, and I'm excited for two different aspects of this. Mike McDonald, who could become the next head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. He's DC in Baltimore. I wonder how he's going to game plan Travis Kelce. Because you've got these two linebackers, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, who are both athletic freaks. And then you have the ultimate X factor in Kyle Hamilton, who's kind of like a hybrid corner, safety, linebacker, just do everything, dude. So how they match up with Kelce make the other guys on Kansas City beat them like they tried to do last week, and they came up with some big plays. But the other part is for Kansas City and how they utilize Nick Bolton, their middle linebacker, who was so big in the Super Bowl. Because if you remember the Super Bowl last year, the Jalen Hurts fumble return for a touchdown was by Nick Bolton, who ran like Usain Bolton. So that's a matchup on how Lamar's legs are going to be tested, because Lamar last week, that was the difference in that game against Houston. Lamar's running ability. So I'm interested to see how the two defensive coordinators kind of dial up some stuff for them.
when you look at this game, Lamar Jackson, ever since coming on in the league, the last pick in the first round of the draft, probably the biggest steal of any NFL draft in the last decade, in my opinion, has not only been the MVP once, it's going to be the MVP again. They need to go back to the original. Look, I know you have Mark Andrews back, which is a huge advantage. You get Mark Andrews back, which even though you have Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, you have Edwards and Justice Hill, his favorite target is Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is one of the most reliable tight ends in football. He's coming off that injury. We'll see how they utilize him. Is he as good as Travis Kelce? No, I don't think there's a tight end that you can say that is as good as Travis Kelce right now. But if you look at the two teams and you match up, not the quarterbacks, let's forget about the quarterback. Let's match up everything else, wide receivers and running backs. The advantage is Baltimore. Baltimore has the better wide receiver crew, has the better running back crew, and I know I'm going to take flack on people who are watching this right now, has the better quarterback.
Oh, I'll give you the receivers. I love Isaiah Pacheco, man. He runs angry.
He runs like Edward Hilaire does, down with power. He gets into those gaps, and he's able to get out of being held a little bit.
And the other part is this. I think you brought up an interesting point when you're talking the running game. The battle at the line of scrimmage. Like, we're talking for Baltimore when they have the ball, key matchup is going to be Tyler Linderbaum against Chris Jones. How do the Chiefs align Chris Jones? And then for when Kansas City's got the ball, Creed Humphrey, who's the biggest Creed fan I know, taking on Justin Matabuki, who's going to cash in big in free agency this offseason. Those two matchups and who wins up front, that could totally that'll dictate the game. And that's another issue for Kansas City is it looks like Joe Thuney, their left tackle, is not going to play.
Nope.
He's got a pec strain, which is a really weird thing because I always thought of the torn pec, not a pec strain. But
trust me, that hurts. Dan, you've heard what we've had to say regarding Baltimore and KC. What are your thoughts on the game?
Baltimore, KC. I really, really want the Ravens to kick the Chiefs' ass today. Um, but we have to be careful because it is Patrick Mahomes, it is Travis Kelce, it is Andy Reid. They have been here many times, consecutive AFC championship appearances. I think it was like 4 now or something like that.
Yes.
It's you don't get here without knowing how to navigate the playoffs. So you got to be careful a little bit. And it doesn't help that the Chiefs have good defense. Um, Ultimately, I do think Baltimore is going to win. It's not my bias. I think Baltimore is going to win. Um, I think Lamar's on a different level than he has been in the past few years. Certainly going to be the MVP of the league. So that's why, and of course, now they have more playmakers to deal with than just the receivers. Now they have Andrews back from IR officially. They're going to play him a little bit. It does help. So the playmakers are going to be a big factor here. The Chiefs ain't going to. They're not going to give up quickly. They will certainly make this a big time game. It's going to be a very good game. But at the end of the day, I think too many playmakers for Baltimore. They'll find a way to really kick some ass, whether it's second half, whether it's a fourth quarter thumping, something like that, whatever it is.
This game is going, like Mike has put out a good point. It's like we've always talked about the game in the trenches. We've always talked about the defensive line versus outside the line, and on both ways, both teams. I think Baltimore has the advantage on the line this time. Baltimore has been able to make holes, not just for one, but for three different running backs, one of them being your quarterback at any time. Lamar Jackson can take off. Gus Edwards is not your 1,000-yard rusher, but when you get down to the goal line, yes, he was stopped last week at the 2, but you get down within the 2 or the 1, he's an 80% chance to get into the end zone. So he's a goal line breaker. And Justice Hill is your change of pace. I think a factor that is not talked about enough, though, is what Odell Beckham Jr. is going to do today.
I think the interesting part on Odell is how the Chiefs line up L'Jarius Sneed, because he's been their shutdown guy. They left him on an island last week against Stephon Diggs, and he did work against Stephon Diggs. So are they going to line him up against Beckham? Are they going to line him up against Zay Flowers, who was really good last week against Houston? I don't think you could pin him one-on-one on Mark Andrews. But I think L'Jarius, how the Chiefs play Sneed and Bolton, and to another degree Chris Jones, that could dictate how the Chiefs' defense looks.
My worry is the secondary in the Chiefs. They're not horrible. The problem is that when you have a 3 set of Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., and Mark Andrews, Odell is not what he used to be. He's not the guy who's going to zip down the field and catch a 50-yard pass. No, he's more of the guy who's going to be out underneath, and he does his best work with his legs in short yardage. Dan, do you agree with that or no?
I mean, yeah. I think about it for a second, but yeah. I mean, you're dead on, dude.
When you have someone like Odell Beckham Jr., yes, when he was with the Giants, probably one of the best receivers I saw play. When he went to Cleveland, he got into that mentality of I'm the number one, so he became Keyshawn Johnson, Terrell Owens, and the list goes on. And that's what I think hurt him. He's gotten a fresh start in Baltimore.
Yeah.
He was injured a little.
His humbling experience came in LA when he won the Super Bowl.
Yes, I'm sorry, I kind of left that out. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I concur. This is probably one of the best we've seen Odell since he was early years with the Giants. Rookie season, second season. This is probably some of the best years that we've seen.
He's healthy. Currently,
Yes.
he's healthy.
And that was huge. That had been huge for him too.
Right. He's not going to have 100-yard, 9-catch day. He'll
He
have a
didn't have
four.
to.
Right.
Lamar can run on his own 100 yards.
Exactly. He'll have a 4 or 5 catch day, 45 yards. But the key thing is 3 of those will be for first downs. That's where I see Beckham being in charge. Mike?
No, I don't disagree with you. That's why I thought the Snead, where you line Snead up. But the other part is not just with the Giants, but when he went to Cleveland, they force fed Odell the ball or tried to overfeed Odell. That's what made, I think, Baker uncomfortable. And then that's why he tried to go away from him at times because he didn't want to feel forced. I think when he went to the Rams and he realized he wasn't the guy, he had Cooper Kupp next to him. And they also had Van Thomas Jefferson. Now he's in a place in Baltimore where he's got Zay Flowers, who's had a really good rookie year. Mark Andrews is back. Isaiah Likely has come from out of nowhere and been an unlikely hero. And then, they just find a way. And they don't abandon their running game. I think the best thing the Ravens did this offseason, forgetting about draft Zay Flowers, forget about signing Odell, it was hiring Todd Monken to be the offensive coordinator.
Yes.
Listen, no disrespect at all to Greg Roman, but his offense was built during the Roman Empire. And we all know how that came crumbling down. So the ability now of Lamar, who can now showcase the fact that he's got an arm and he can throw the ball down the football field. They got him enough weapons. That's why the Baltimore Ravens are in this position. Then they have a really good defense. But I feel like I could say that every year with the Ravens. They have a really good defense.
Well, the Ravens' mentality has always been built on defense. If you really want to look at it, going all the way back to the Ray Lewis era,
Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Peter Boulware, Tony Siragusa.
The names go on. I mean, defense, you don't see too many defensive-minded teams like Baltimore anymore. Baltimore has always been on the defensive side. Yes, they got a good offense, but their focus has always been defense. I don't know if you two agree with me on that.
No, they've always been defensive-minded.
Yeah.
It's what led Marvin Lewis to being the coach of the Bengals for 7 years ago.
Now, if you flip it to the other side, now then we got to talk about KC eventually, a little bit. Patrick Mahomes has been here. So there is no undue pressure on him. This isn't a guy coming into his first AFC championship game. He's been here. He knows what the score is. He knows what he has to do. I have a hot mic bet. What is the over-under on times the camera goes to Taylor Swift?
Oh, boy. I think they'll put her in a side-by-side picture in a picture. That's what I was going to go with.
Over under, definitely over like 10.
Okay. This is the problem.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem with Dan or Mike. I'm in this to watch football. I don't give a frig who's in. If it was President Biden, I understand taking a quick shot to President Biden. He's the president of the United States. I don't need to see Taylor Swift being so happy when Travis Kelce catches a 1-yard pass.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. Focus on football. You want to show her once? Okay. After they score, you want to show her happy? Fine. Once. Let's not make this about her. If the Chiefs lose, I'm betting she leaves them.
I don't know about that.
By the way, CBS, if we're doing this game, I need you to show close-ups of my guy Stavros, great stand-up comedian who's a diehard Ravens fan. I need
just
those
needed a little
reactions
levity
too.
there. That's all. No, in all seriousness, Patrick Mahomes knows what the deal is. Travis Kelce's been here; he knows what to deal with. But for a lot of the rest of these guys, Rashee Rice, I don't know if Kadarius Toney is technically playing.
He's not playing today.
He's not.
Okay,
Nope.
I didn't.
It's
didn't
the only
look at
way
the
he
list
can
yet.
stay on sides.
I was about to say, I don't know if they're really risky enough to put him out there.
Well, they're saying he's hurt, but I don't believe it.
I don't believe he's hurt. I believe after
He was
that
hurt
F-up, he's
last week
gone.
also. It doesn't make sense.
I think KC has gotten here because of when they played at home. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it in a very hostile Baltimore crowd.
See, I would agree with you, Mark, but they just did it last week in Buffalo.
See, I'm not going to disagree with you there. You're right. You're right. The problem was, I think it was so cold there, his ears froze up and couldn't hear anything. And he played his game and he played it well.
And the guys around him made plays.
But Buffalo's defense is not the Ravens.
No, absolutely not.
So it's a different animal. I think
Excuse me.
that the missing of, oh God, I'm gonna forget his name, the left tackle again, Mike.
Joe Thuney.
Thank you. The missing of him is being going to be like, I'm going to throw it right here, is when Tyron Smith was out in Dallas and Dak Prescott was sacked 6 times from that side. They are going to blitz from that side. They're going to come from that side as much as possible, and they're going to make Mahomes get out of the pocket.
Right.
But 2 quick points, and then we'll go prediction. I wonder how Baltimore, if they'll use Clowney in that spot, because Clowney had a great year, so that'd be interesting. But for Casey, they like to run multiple tight end sets, so I wonder if they'll leave someone over on that left side to help in protection. They also started doing more things in 13 personnel last week, so I don't know if they'll go that route either.
It's going to be a fun game.
Oh yeah. All right. So who do we like, and what's the score?
Dan?
So I have the Ravens. It's gonna be close. You're looking probably at like a 27-24 type of deal.
I have the Ravens as well. I have it as a higher scoring game, but close. I have it 35-33.
That'd be classic.
Ravens.
If that's
Ravens.
Classic.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of things in my life. I've learned simple addition.
So was my daughter.
Yeah, dude, I would tell you, I just started using this calculator invention. It's great. So I've learned simple addition. I've learned not to like any Nicolas Cage movie.
How can you not like Gone in 60 Seconds and Con Air?
Because he's Nick Cage. I've learned. I don't know what else I've learned, but I've also learned never to get a bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to take Kansas City. I'll take them 21-17.
And it's hard to bet against arguably the number 1 person in football, Patrick Mahomes. It's hard. He's number 1 for a reason. I just don't see the Chiefs team as it was the past few years. That's all.
Right. That's the 3:00 game. The 6:30 game.
Wow.
At the Bay. The San Francisco 49ers playing host to the Oh, wait, no, it's not the Eagles.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
But to the Detroit Lions, who might bite a kneecap off if they actually do go to the Super Bowl. Now, a note before we get into the game. Ian Rappaport this morning said the Lions and Jared Goff are going to work out a contract extension during the offseason. That'll make Goff one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. So, Jared Goff had a year. Does it end today?
No. Jared Goff, I've covered the Detroit Lions all year for the Blitzers, and I chose it, even though a few years ago they went 0-16. Dan Campbell is an animal. He is a fantastic coach. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to direct it. He knows how to run it. He knows how to clock manage. If you've watched the Lions over the last few years, they've been slowly building. That trade for Stafford and Goff even trade.
Yeah.
The Rams got what they wanted. They got their Super Bowl win. The Rams got what they wanted out of it. Now it's Detroit's time. And look at this Detroit team. Jared Goff, you got David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs, the best, and yes, the best running back duo in football. I don't care what anybody wants to say. Both of them averaging better than 55 yards a game and on less than 10 carries a game. That's a running back core. They're both receiving out of the backfield, an average of 4 receptions per person. Now, if that wasn't enough, let's talk about the fastest man in football. Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is going to get 10 plus receptions today. Guaranteed. He's going to have at least 1 touchdown and over 100 yards. But I think the biggest factor, the man who's going to do it all, is Sam Laporta. I think Sam Laporta is going to be the first down guy for them over the center. Not long, deep passes. Now the problem lies in the defense. The defensive line has been good. It's been solid. It stopped the run very well. The linebacker crew run by Aiden Hutchinson has been very good. But the secondary has been abysmal as of lately.
Well, yeah, I mean, they allowed big passes from Baker Mayfield last Sunday, which was, that's tough to swallow. In a championship game where what's the update to Debo again? Is he playing?
Debo's a go.
Debo's a go.
So you don't want to give up big passes from Purdy to Debo. So yeah, that's a. But yeah, no, I mean, other than that, I think the defensive line has been absolutely stellar, and that's the thing. Stopping the run, they're going to hand it off to McCaffrey so many different times in Niners.
Right.
So Lions can stop him and make Purdy throw all the time. That may open up the secondary a little bit, but they have to come through. They cannot give up big plays.
Dan called out the biggest factor right there. It's Christian McCaffrey. And if the world was set right, there's your MVP. I'm sorry.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying the guy had probably one of the best years of a running back since Marshall Faulk, going way back. That being said, trying to stop him is like trying to stop a gazelle covered in Vaseline. It's not going to happen. He's going to get out. He's going to get by. You're going to see
gazelle covered in Vaseline.
I was trying to come up with something creative, and that just popped in my head.
Oh boy!
Thank you for other things. It's like trying to stop Barry Sanders.
Yeah,
it's not able to be done. Barry Sanders was not as big of a threat as a receiving running back. McCaffrey is the best there is in football. He can receive. He can catch 9 receptions for 190 yards, no problem. He can run the ball 20 times for 170 yards, no problem.
He's a toothpick though compared to like a Le'Veon Bell or Breece Hall though. So it's
and Dan just pointed out a big thing that I was going to get to. Right, is he's thin. He's not a guy who's going to bully his way through for 8 yards, but his size allows him to maneuver in and out of those lines. And we'll see if the Lions can control that. But I think we're going to see Patrick Mahomes throwing close to 50 passes today. Mike.
And if you go back to the game last week for the Niners against the Packers, the big touchdown run, like the Packers were doing a good job of holding him in check. And then all of a sudden boom, in a second, he's gone. And so... But I think the other thing I look at for the Niners is even when Debo went out last week, George Kittle catches a touchdown. How big was Brandon Ayuk in the second half last week? Talk about a guy who also is going to get paid.
Does he have one more year or is his contract up?
I believe he's up. I'll double check.
Oh, okay. We'll check in a little bit. That's
fine. But he's so important. Then they have a Jawan Jennings who makes plays. Oh, and then by the way, they have the best fullback in the league in Kyle Juszczyk, and that's just a fun name to say, Juszczyk. Mm. They have so many weapons, and Kyle Shanahan is the best play caller in the NFL.
I can't disagree with that statement.
And if Brock Purdy wants to be relevant and no longer irrelevant, he will win this game and take the Niners to the Super Bowl. Because last year, what was the excuse? Brock Purdy got hurt. We didn't have a chance in Philly. Well, now you're at home. You're not playing Philly. You're not playing Dallas. You're not playing the 86 Giants. You're playing the Detroit Lions. And as good of a story as the Lions are, and by the way, there is zero pressure on the Lions. All the pressure's on the Niners. I think the Niners come out and they show why they deserve to be in the Super Bowl.
I think the Niners need to rely on, they got to rely on a lot, but I think the person who has to take control is Fred Warner. And he is probably, it's hard to call out one person as the best linebacker in football when you have players like Hutchinson, Parsons, and all that. But Fred Warner has really controlled this offense and is really the good signal caller. And that's why this offense has done well. You got to be able to outthink him. And that's where the change-ups of running it with Gibbs or handing it to Montgomery or short checkoffs to Laporta, tight screens, stuff like that is what's going to help the Lions move the ball. And I'm going to get to Dan in a second. My thing is it going to be a Dallas-San Francisco repeat where Detroit comes out and just is on the field long enough to tire out that San Francisco defense to getting them worn? Dan, your thoughts on going in with, Detroit's offense wearing down that San Francisco solid defense. That's where we were.
I agree that they can do it, but they need to execute. One of the things that they've been struggling at of late is getting off to fast starts. It seems like they would have a good drive that it stalls. Maybe instead of getting a touchdown, they have to kick a field goal. And the Lions offense lately have been having a lot of trouble with just getting off to big time fast starts. And it was evident in the Dallas game. It was evident throughout the playoffs. They had a good game against Tampa Bay. 100% had a good game against Tampa Bay. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a beast. And Jared Goff has been spectacular. I'm worried about Jared Goff, though, because with the exception of the last championship game, in the Super Bowl, he was brutal against the Patriots.
Yes.
So he needs to come up big. And not saying that Jared Goff is just gonna if he has a bad game, they're just gonna brush him off and put him to the side on the street and all homeless and stuff. I'm not saying the Lions would ever do that. But it has to start creeping into the mind because Jared Goff's been there a while. It has to start creeping into the minds of the Lions. Maybe it's getting a little older. Maybe we should start bringing in someone younger and looking at different possible quarterbacks if it doesn't work out in this championship game.
So Dan brings up a good point is who is behind Jared Goff? Right now, there's the only name I can think of is Hendon Hooker. Hasn't thrown the ball all season.
Right.
And nothing against the guy. The guy had a great scout, had a great camp before the draft. So I think the Lions got a good backup, but he needs time. I think the Lions, and Dan's got a very good point, is if something happens to Jared Goff, there is nobody behind him to lead this offense.
Well, I think you're seeing the importance of backup quarterbacks. I think it's across the league now.
Yeah.
With all the quarterbacks that have gone down. But I think when you look at the Lions too, they've taken on the identity and the personality of Dan Campbell.
100%.
And that's what makes a good coach. And that's what makes this team really interesting, not just this year, but for the years to come, how they play. And by the way, Detroit might now become a free agent destination.
And that's the statement I'm looking for right there. Is that
been huge for them too.
Detroit has never been that team.
No, not since Axel Foley was wearing the jacket in Beverly Hills Cop.
Detroit is that team, and that's something we roll. Can you imagine? Because this is going to be a very big free agent class this year, whether it's running backs, wide receivers, even defensive linemen. We could see. I mean,
Corner, they're gonna need a corner.
yes, absolutely. They're not going to need a running back, so you don't have to worry about names of Saquon and Derrick Henry. You know,
Oh,
not
Derrick
going to have to
Henry
worry
in
about that.
team.
There's no need. I mean, there's always need, but there's no need for a receiver there. They got three reliable receivers in Williams, Reynolds, and St. Brown. You got a tight end in Laporta. You need a couple of linemen, and you got to build up that defense a little more. That's where Detroit needs.
By the way,
to
if you
go.
wanted to draft a receiver in the middle rounds, no one would bat an eye. So I like where their trajectory is really good. The interesting thing is going to be next year how the NFC North looks. What do the Bears do throughout the offseason and draft? What do the Packers do after a successful year? What are the Vikings? What are the Vikings doing? The NFC North is in a little bit of a holding pattern right now, but if Detroit's gonna be the favorite again next year. And so
Yeah.
they have to go for it now. And they're, by the way, we talked about that. The job Brad Holmes has done too as general manager has been sensational.
Absolutely. You look at the two teams that are on the field, and as much as I wanted my team to be there and whatnot, the right two are there.
Yep.
At the end of the day, at the end of the season, and I think Dan might agree with me on this, that Detroit and San Francisco are the right two to be in this championship game. Dan?
Oh yeah, no, they to me have been the best teams. No offense to your Cowboys. Cowboys had a phenomenal season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this was my hope was this matchup here. 100%. Yeah.
And I think on the other side in the AFC, it's gotten right as well. I did have Miami trying to make it all the way there, but unfortunately, Mike, I'm sorry to say, when I saw they were going to KC, I did not think.
Oh yeah, they weren't winning in case.
No, that was the only problem. That game was in Miami. Miami's in the AFC Championship game, hands down.
Listen, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, even though I don't have any chickens at the moment. But
too cold for chicken.
It's never too cold for chicken. No, but I think if you're the NFL, you couldn't get four better teams here. San Francisco's got the history. Detroit hasn't been here forever. Kansas City has the best quarterback in the league. They're the New England kind of deal. And Baltimore is just a constant threat. So
to
you
me,
couldn't ask for a better two games.
Of the four quarterbacks in this matchup, who do you like best, Dan?
Of the four, you said?
Of the four starting quarterbacks today, who do you like the best?
Lamar.
Okay.
Lamar's I like him the best.
When you say like, do you mean watching them play? Do you mean like them as a whole? I mean,
I'm talking for today. Who's the quarterback for today?
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
Okay.
And
Lamar.
I just want Lamar and why. That's all. Just a small 1 minute answer.
Because he could mean just like Mahomes, he can pretty much do everything, but he's on his game more this season than any other season that I've seen him play. And
Mike,
I think
sorry,
in this championship, and he will. He's going to take every advantage of what's going on around him.
Mr. Pun.
Well, I think it's a pretty good day to say Brock Purdy. Listen, he's got Debo. He's got Kittle, he's got Ayuk, he's got McCaffrey. He's playing not a great defense in the Detroit Lions. Brock Purdy, from Mr. Irrelevant to NFC champion. I think that sounds pretty good.
I never thought this could happen. 3 different answers. Jared Goff, baby. I think he has the most in it to win it. I think he knows not only his contract's already solidified, but it'll be even bigger if he steps on that field. He's going to go in. He's got the weapons to use in Laporta and St. Brown and Williams, Gibbs, and Montgomery. I think Detroit goes in and Jared Goff leads them to the Super Bowl.
Dan, do you like Detroit or San Francisco?
So I'm thinking about it 2 ways. I want Detroit to win, but I think the Niners are going to be better. And ultimately, it's going to be the Niners. But I really want Detroit to win. No disrespect to San Francisco. They're not annoying me as much as Kansas City's annoying me. But there's something about Detroit's story that has to continue into the Super Bowl.
Yes. Going into this game, there is a lot of bias because as a Dallas fan, I absolutely can't stand San Francisco. But taking the 2 teams, give me Detroit. I really want to see Detroit win, and Dan put a very good point into it as well. The history about it, and how much better it's going to be when they step onto that Super Bowl field.
I believe they named Barry Sanders an honorary captain today, and the Niners named Joe Montana their honorary captain.
Not Jerry Rice?
I think Jerry Rice is at every home game regardless.
Oh, I know, but I mean, look, nothing against Joe. I mean, nothing against Joe. I love Joe.
Joe Montana. Yeah,
exactly. But I was just thinking, you go Barry Sanders, the running back. Jerry Rice should be the wide receiver captain.
Yeah, I like the Niners.
They win the toss. Barry should get 1 carry when they get to the Super Bowl. Barry should get signed for 1 day so he can get 1 carry in the Super Bowl and retire.
And they should sign Calvin Johnson for a 1-game contract too.
Yes, so he can play in the Super Bowl.
Calvin Johnson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's your new receiving too.
Oh my God! Speaking of, one quick last note: the Detroit Lions did make a move in the last few days after the injury to their backup tight end. They signed Zach Ertz 2 days ago.
He's not playing today.
He is not playing today, but if they go to the Super Bowl, he will be ready to play on a 35 snap contingency.
All right. So those are the 2 games, but the NFL did come out. We have coaching notes. We'll cover those on Wishbone. We covered Jim Harbaugh last week. But the NFL did announce finalists for award season.
Here we go.
So we'll start with the offensive player of the year. You got Tyreek Hill, you got Lamar, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Christian McCaffrey, and you got Dak Prescott. I want to say this before we get started on it. If you're going to name the quarterbacks the MVP, they can't also be the offensive player of the year.
Absolutely.
It has to be skill position player of the year.
Agreed.
No.
But either way, it's McCaffrey.
Yes.
I mean, but Tyreek is up there. You cannot.
Listen,
don't count him out.
I'm not counting Tyreek out. He was on fire most of the year.
Look, I love what Tyreek Hill did this season. I love how he's everywhere and anywhere he needs to be, and he produces. It's just that Christian McCaffrey, I did it all.
Yeah.
I just can't see anybody but him.
He's a beast.
All right, offensive rookie of the year. You got Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, both of the Lions. Puka Nacua of the Rams. Bijan Robinson of the Falcons. Oh, hey, the Falcons got a new coach. Maybe they'll know how to use Bijan Robinson.
That was the biggest kerfuffle of the whole year.
And C.J. Stroud of the Texans.
Give it up a little bit for C.J. Stroud, but no.
It'll be Stroud, but Puka Nacua, man, had a year.
Look, again, it should not look. C.J. Stroud did something this year we haven't seen a rookie quarterback do in a long time. So yeah, it should go to him.
You made the Texans relevant,
right? I liked what Puka did this year, though. Dan?
Well, I also like what Nacua did, and Bijan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go Stroud. I'm sorry, I can't.
No, that's fine.
I
Yeah.
gotta go Stroud. Stroud did a lot of things that you can't teach quarterbacks to do. He's going to be the next stud. He really is. And he's
Is he
already
going to be
made
better
stuff.
than Deshaun Watson?
Oh, 100%. I think so.
Wait. Are you talking to Sean 5 years ago? Or are you
I'm talking to
Deshaun
Sean
now?
Houston era. I'm talking to Sean Houston era.
They got to
yeah,
get him a DeAndre Hopkins.
but yeah, down. Yep, you gotta get him a number one.
Got to get him a weapon.
He's got a 2 and a 3. They just need a
Yeah,
solid
they
number
need a
one.
number one receiver. By the way, if that's your biggest need, you're doing something right.
Exactly. And a running back.
Well, I mean, just go out there and spend on Eckler.
Why not? And then release Singletary and the other one, Pierce.
Yeah. Defensive rookie of the year, you got Will Anderson from the aforementioned Texans. From Mark's Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Carter. From the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. From the Rams, Kobe Turner and Devin Witherspoon of the Seahawks.
All had good years.
Yeah, none of them had outstanding, phenomenal years. I think I would go Kobe Turner or Carter.
And I'm with you there. I'm thinking, as much as I'm pissed off that you said my favorite team was Philadelphia, I don't disagree with you there. I think Jalen Carter, even though his troubles before the draft, came in and did what he was expected to do, and he did a little bit more. Mind you, if they're in the NFC Championship game today, there would be no question. But I think Jalen Carter does deserve it.
Yeah.
Dan?
But when Witherspoon was shut down,
Witherspoon was great. He also missed a
Witherspoon-
couple of games though, and I don't like penalizing him for that. But
it's not fair though.
no,
Like,
I'm not arguing that.
you know, like that Seahawks defense changed when he's in the second.
That Seahawks defense also changed when Jamal Adams played. They were worse.
The disaster, dude. And I'm glad he's not on my team. No, I'm with you on Jalen Carter though. Like he's a beast.
And then for comeback player of the year, you got
Brees Hall was not nominated, and I'm pissed.
I agree with you there, Dan.
you got DeMar Hamlin of the Bills.
No,
You
sorry.
got Baker
No.
Mayfield of the Bucks. You got Stafford, which I don't know why Stafford was nominated, but all right. You got Joe Flacco and you got Tua.
Okay. I'm gonna, to Mike's dismay, I'm taking Tua out of it, and I'm taking Stafford out of it.
Yeah,
I would take Stafford out of it too. I have no.
I'm taking Tua out of it. No offense, Mike.
I'm not a
It,
fan.
even though it was only a handful of games, Joe Flacco proved that
100%.
anybody over 40 years old can still throw a ball 50 yards and bring the Browns to the playoffs. If it goes to anybody else, it's a shanda.
It's
Yes,
gonna
I
go to
should-
DeMar Hamlin.
It's gonna go to DeMar, and it's
Look,
so. And
I
look, this is no disrespect because I get it. I get it. What he went through was something remarkable.
man died on the field. I mean, basically, and he's come back to play, but
It's something that you don't see. You know,
no.
so you're gonna give it to him, but in reality, the Bills didn't really change when DeMar came back.
And that's the factor.
You know, like
Dan said it right there.
The other thing is he was used on special teams. He wasn't,
Well, they didn't want him to take a hit and
No, I know.
God forbid,
And
go
I
through
get
that again.
and there were
but-
games he was inactive for. And listen, it's gonna go there.
it
I
really
also
should be
wouldn't be
Flacco.
opposed to it being Till because we remember the last image of him on the field last year, but
with his head 10 yards past his neck, yes.
and the hand, yeah,
Uh.
the hands. But listen, I still don't get the Stafford part of this. I don't know why.
I don't understand. Look, I know
Why not
Stafford got
Brees
injured.
Hall?
Yeah.
Look, Brees Hall doesn't have to win, but him over Stafford makes way more sense.
And him over Baker Mayfield kind of makes sense too. Like I get it. Baker had a great year. And
mean,
that's
they-
his
No, he had a
comeback.
phenomenal
But
year.
he's not
He had a
coming.
phenomenal year.
But he's not come back from an injury. So yeah, I get that.
No, that's why I didn't even consider him.
Yeah, but you
Dan-
tell me, other
Go
than
ahead, Dan.
Saquon, I apologize, Park.
No.
You tell me, other than Saquon Barkley, what running back after a ACL tear, which is a really tough injury to come back from after a year, he came back less than that.
Mhm.
What running back would be getting better and better and better every single week? Brees Hall did that.
Yeah.
One with
Again,
Nathaniel Hackett calling plays.
Yeah.
But Dan said it right. Dan said it should go to a player who's made an impact on their team. And of that entire list, Joe Flacco
Yeah.
is that name. I look, when he was with the Jets, I made fun of Dan daily. I sent him text after meme and made fun of it. I apologized for it immediately when he came in and threw for 300 yards and whatnot when he was with the Browns.
First of all, you had every right to make fun of it because it wasn't really Joe Flacco; it was the Jet coaching staff. But let's get that right. Joe Flacco wasn't the issue; it was the Jet coaching staff that's the issue, and that's why they all should have been fired already. But
A whole
whatever.
nother conversation. All right.
You had every right to do whatever you did because
Yeah.
no one expected
But
Joe Flacco to do what he did this season.
I mean, I not even Brett Favre did what Joe Flacco did when he played in his 40s.
All right. Coach of the year. You got Dan Campbell. You got John Harbaugh. You got D'Amico Ryans. You got Kyle Shanahan. And you've got Kevin Stefanski.
Well, Stefanski's out. So he's a good coach. Don't get me wrong.
He's on there because he played 17 different quarterbacks.
Right. I'm just saying he's a good coach, but he's off the list, in my opinion.
Why not Harbaugh?
See, I agree with Dan on that. Why is he at least not mentioned?
He is.
John
Harbaugh was mentioned.
What I'm saying is, why not him winning it? The Ravens are always good, and he gets no recognition for it. It's
And
always
that's not wrong.
It's always Lamar, and everybody else, but John Harbaugh. That makes no sense. John Harbaugh is a culture guy. He came in and completely changed the culture, and is why he is still the head coach. He's been the head coach in the late 2000s.
Yeah, I think him and Tomlin might have started the same year, close to it.
And
Maybe
how is Mike look, Mike Tomlin's a 20-year winner. How is his name not just on there for mention's sake?
Yeah,
just mention's sake.
Yeah, he should always be coach of the year for the crap teams that the Steelers keep building.
Yeah, when it all plays out, the person who deserves to win is Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
and he took the Lions from nothing to supremacy. And yes, that's kind of picking the favorite. I agree with Dan on the Harbaugh statute it's all talk about Lamar, but somebody's telling Lamar what to do and where to do it. So there has to be some mention there, Mike.
I lean D'Amico Ryans, Dan's cousin. I mean,
yeah, why don't we have a suite in Houston for a game, man?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think you could go wrong with any of the choices because I think these are the right options.
I think you can't go wrong with Stefanski. I can't.
Well, it's just because they went through 5 quarterbacks. But for D'Amico Ryans, first-year coach with a rookie quarterback to win the AFC South, it's impressive.
You're not wrong.
Division sucks. I mean,
no, I'm not saying the division doesn't suck it and the Jags didn't choke it away, but still, argument's sake, before the season started, the Texans won 2-3 games last year? We were going to sit here and say if they won 5 to 6 games, it's a successful year for the Houston Texans. They went out and won the division.
Okay. I know we mentioned this earlier. This just came in from ESPN. There is no limitation or restriction on Deebo Samuel for today. He is 100% go. He will not be limited at all.
Oh,
That's interesting.
Debo.
That changes everything.
Yep. They just released it, and now they're saying Mark Andrews will play 75% of the offensive snaps.
Okay. Now, here would be my question for Aaron Glenn. Did you prep for this Niners offense with or without Debo? Better hope it was with.
Look, Debo
You always
Samuel,
got to prepare. You always have to prepare with. You can't prepare without. That'd be dumb. That's
No, I'm
malpractice.
saying if they had two separate game plans, like one if he plays, one if he doesn't, or if he's half go,
Gotcha. Yeah.
like Monopoly, don't pass go. All right, and then for all the marbles, we got MVP finalists:
I think we're all agreed on who's getting it.
Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy, and some guy named Dak Prescott who lost in the wild card round.
Look, I'm not going to mince words. Dak Prescott had a phenomenal year. And you want to know why you don't hear about it is because everybody talks about when he throws an interception. Oh, he threw less interceptions than better than 80% of the quarterbacks this year. No, he does not deserve the MVP. He had a great season.
You know who should be in here that's not, though? Justin Herbert. Like, I mean, what Herb's had a great year. He's watching the playoffs again from
Having a
home,
beer, you know,
doing more Subway commercials.
in a
Buddy
right
Herbs.
in a right world, it goes to Christian McCaffrey. In the real world, it goes to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Lamar. It's
It,
not
it,
close.
it's gonna be Lamar because he had a phenomenal season.
When you look at
I was
sorry,
still leaning on Tyreek or personally or Christian McCaffrey.
yeah, I'm hope. Look, I'm not saying
One of these
Lamar
days,
doesn't
one of these
deserve it.
days, a skill player is gonna win that. Win that.
That's what I want. And whether we get, like we said, a separate MVP, one for quarterbacks and then one for positional players, which would be fine. And then if they win any of those two, they can't win Offensive Player of the Year, stuff like that.
No.
Right. The MVP, if you look at the list, and I have, is better than 85% quarterbacks. The rare occasions where it's been different, you had Emmitt Smith in 1993, and then you had sporadic players, but it's always the quarterback. Why? Because everybody thinks it's on the quarterback's shoulders. Yes, I don't disagree. However, once the ball is out of the quarterback's hands, he has nothing to do with anything. He stands there and watches. It's for Debo or McCaffrey or a CD Lamb or whatever to make it something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel, and I agree with Dan, that it has to be two separate categories. And I know Mike has been very vocal on this as well. So,
Mike's
but
just
yes,
vocal.
Lamar Jackson, you can't give it to anybody else, unfortunately.
Yeah. And Lamar, you're gonna have to earn that MVP today if you want us to go to the Super Bowl.
Lamar Jackson is going to go 100 and 250. 100 on the ground, 250 in the air.
I was gonna go somewhere totally different. I'm not touching it. All right. Is there anything else we wanted to hit on?
The last thing we want to mention is that SIN is growing. We are growing at a very, very nice rate. We're looking for people to come in and join our group who are basketball minded. We're looking for some tennis minded, and we need some golf minded people because let's face it, we're lacking in a few positions. And if you want to reach out to us and you're interested in joining us and being able to be a part of SIN, reach out to us at www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com and reach out to whether it's Dan, Mike, myself, Patchman, Lawrence, or Noah. And we'll be more than glad to sit down and talk with you and see how you can contribute or if you're right for us. But please don't hesitate in asking.
All right. That'll do it for this edition, Championship Sunday edition of the Sunday Sideline Report. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Check out, as Mark said, check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. You can follow us on the socials at S Insanity Real on the Twitter machine. We're also on Facebook. But until next time, for the one and only old ops guy, for Danny Boy, who's back in his house and stomping grounds, I'm Mike Griffin. We'll talk to you next time here on the Sunday Sideline Report.